everybody, welcome back to Deep Intelligence Lab. In our last video, we discussed the deterministic perspective behind linear regression. So in this one, we are going to delve deeper into the probabilistic perspective. So let's get started. Today, let's delve deeper into the probabilistic story behind linear regression. Normally, as we have seen last time, linear regression is modeled as a standard line equation which is represented as y equals mx plus b. But in the probabilistic viewpoint, we see this differently. The output is not perfectly deterministic. There is uncertainty or noise in the world. Let us take a simple example. House price prediction. This is one of the basic examples discussed whenever we talk about linear regression. So, considering we have the features number of rooms, size and location, and the target is to predict the house price. Even if two houses have the exact same features, one may have better interiors and another may have better neighborhood. So this is something which is subjective and this cannot be predicted by a model. So this means that the same input X can produce slightly different outputs Y, which makes it completely non-deterministic. The meaning of deterministic is that same inputs give the same output, but that is not the case in this house price prediction system. This implies that y is not equal to mx plus b exactly. In this case, y equals mx plus b plus noise, which is capturing all unknown factors in the world. Before we move on, let us talk about an important topic called random variables. This concept will be used by us later on. So, random variables are values that are uncertain. For example, it can be tomorrow's temperature or the stock price. These are values which have a lot of uncertainty associated with them. In general, random variables or RVs are often denoted with capital letters or uppercase letters. And the observed values that these random variables take are expressed as lowercase letters. Now, what is a probability distribution? It tells us how likely it is for a random variable to take different values. Let us discuss with a simple example of rolling a die. As you all know, rolling a die can have 1 to 6 numbers as the output. So, the probability that x takes the value 1 is 1 by 6. Similarly, the probability that x takes the value 5 or 6 is also 1 by 6. But the probability of x taking values like 7 or minus 1 equals 0, as they are not possible. In this example, the numbers 1, 5, 6, 7 and minus 1 are discrete values. What about if we have continuous values? Then we have probability distributions known as continuous distributions. A standard example to this is the Gaussian distribution, which is also modeled as a bell curve. Let us now see how the bell curve is represented. A Gaussian distribution with mu as the mean and sigma square as the variance can be represented as shown in the graph. What is this value variance? So the probability of y, which is modeled as a Gaussian distribution, is 1 by root over 2 pi sigma square multiplied with exponent of minus of y minus mu square by 2 sigma square. Variance measures the spread of the data. When we say data has small variance, it means there is less spread in the data. And when we say the data has large variance, it means that the data is spread out wide. Now that we have seen all of this, let us move on to remodeling linear regression. In the probabilistic viewpoint, we assume the prediction errors or noise follow a Gaussian distribution, which means the noise can be represented as the Gaussian of 0, sigma square when 0 is the mean and sigma square is the variance. Also note that the Gaussian distribution is also called as the normal distribution. In this case, the errors are centered around 0, which is the mean value. This also indicates that small errors are common and huge errors are rare, as can be seen in the bell curve graph. So if we say y equals mx plus b plus epsilon, which is the noise or error, epsilon is modeled as the Gaussian of 0, sigma square. By rearranging the terms, we get y minus mx plus b equals epsilon, which is normally distributed with mean 0 and variance sigma square. We can also bring the term mx plus b to the other side by shifting the mean, which was originally 0, to mx plus b. So the output is a Gaussian around the regression line mx plus b. Now let us look into another topic called conditional probability. Conditional probability helps us model the probability of a particular event to occur given that another event has already occurred. So in this case, the probability of y given x is modeled as the normal distribution with mean mx plus b and variance sigma square. We need to note that x here is already given as it is the input features. We now expand into the topic of likelihood. Suppose the model parameters represented by w are fixed and the data can change. We ask which value of the model parameters w makes the observed data more likely, which means that we aim at finding a w that maximizes the probability of the data being seen given w. Now let us assume we have a data point xi, yi. We want to find the likelihood of observing one data point, which is probability of yi given xi, m, b and sigma square equals 1 by root over 2 pi sigma square exponent of minus of y minus mx plus b whole square by 2 sigma square. This is the meaning of the Gaussian distribution that we discussed about earlier. Now notice that whenever the prediction is closer to the true value, that is when mx plus b is closer to y, we observe a larger likelihood. Similarly, whenever the prediction is far from the true value, we observe a smaller likelihood. Now supposing we have a data set D which equals the set of x1, y1, x2, y2, so on, xn, yn. We assume that the data points are independent. This means that the total likelihood can be modeled as a product of individual likelihoods. This makes our job easier. Now, this means that the probability of observing the whole dataset D given m, b and sigma square can be modeled as the product of all the probabilities p of yi given xi, m, b and sigma square. We can write it so because the probability of observing two independent events A-B can be written as the product of observing event A and event B because A and B are independent. We can rewrite the probability of observing the dataset D given m, b and sigma square in the Gaussian expression format as discussed earlier. Now we use a small mathematical technique which is taking the logarithm on both sides. Why we do this is to avoid taking too many mathematical multiplications. Because whenever we take a logarithm of a product of a and b, we can expand them as the logarithm of a plus the logarithm of b. This means that we are converting all our products into summations. Now, the logarithm of the probability of observing the dataset D given m, b and sigma square can be written as the summation of log of the whole Gaussian expression. Now we can split this expression as the logarithm of 1 by root over 2 pi sigma square minus yi minus mx plus b whole square by 2 sigma square. This is because the logarithm of an exponent gives the exponent value itself, as the logarithm and exponent cancel each other out. Now we simplify the first term to be minus n by 2 logarithm of 2 pi sigma square, and the second term to be minus 1 by 2 sigma square summation of yi minus mxi plus b whole square. Now, if you again remember what we discussed earlier, mxi plus b is nothing but yi cap, which is the predicted value of yi. So, we can replace mxi plus b with yi cap. Now, if you remember our original goal, we wanted to find the values of m and b such that the likelihood is maximized. This means that we want to find the argmax m, b of logarithm of the probability of observing the data set given m, b and sigma square. Now, how are we maximizing the logarithm directly? This is because log is monotonically increasing, which means that maximizing the probability is equivalent to maximizing the logarithm of the probability. So finally, we have the logarithm of the probability of observing the whole data set given m, b and sigma square equals minus n by 2 logarithm of 2 pi sigma square minus 1 by 2 sigma square summation of yi minus yi cap whole square. Here we note that minus n by 2 log 2 pi sigma square is a constant with respect to m and b. So we can remove this term entirely from the optimization equation. This means that the maximization can be rewritten to be argmax m, b minus 1 by 2 sigma square summation of yi minus yi cap whole square. Here again, minus 1 by 2 sigma square is a constant with respect to m, b. So we can also remove this entirely. We can also convert this maximization to a minimization problem by removing the negative sign that we have before the summation of yi minus yi cap whole square. This gives us arg min m, b summation of yi minus yi cap whole square. Now, I hope all of you remember that this is nothing but the mean square error, which is also related to the concept of least squares that we discussed in our last video. We have derived a precious relation, which is that the least squares is nothing but the maximum likelihood under Gaussian noise. This means that from the probabilistic story, we have again reached the same optimization equation that we had in the deterministic view as well, which is to minimize the summation of yi minus yi cap whole square. We have discussed the solution to this in the previous video, which was to take the gradient and equate it to 0 directly, or in cases when it is not possible, we use the technique called gradient descent, which is a standard optimization technique for finding the optimal values of m and b in this case. Hope you guys enjoyed it. In our next video, we are going to talk about PCA and the complete mathematics behind it. So until then, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Thank you.